A first-of-its-kind lawsuit has been filed by the families of two men who are believed to have been killed in a U.S. boat strike. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy reports.
The wrongful death lawsuit has been filed in federal court in Massachusetts by the ACLU on behalf of the families of two Trinidadian men believed to have been killed in mid-October. Their families say Chad Joseph and Rishi Samaru were fishermen who caught a ride on a boat that was struck by the U.S. At the time, President Trump posted that intelligence confirmed the vessel was trafficking narcotics. The lawsuit, which seeks unspecified damages, describes the two men's deaths as unjustified extrajudicial killings, murders on the high seas.
Activists say Iran's crackdown on nationwide protests has killed at least 6,100 people. Many others still are feared dead. The aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln is steaming toward the region. Iran's government says any U.S. action will be answered. We just got closer to midnight on the doomsday clock. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists uses that clock as a metaphor of the perils we must address if we are to survive. The doomsday clock is now 85 seconds to midnight. It's 4 seconds closer than it was last year and the closest it's ever been to 12 midnight. When the clock was introduced in 1947, it was set to 7 minutes before midnight. The organization says our three biggest challenges are nuclear weapons, climate change, and biological threats. I'm Wayne Cabot, ABC News.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Michaela's Mobile Spa, Michaela. Michaela got a quick business insurance quote from Progressive and chose from over 30 customizable coverages. Sure, it helps she's her only employee and does literally everything. But while others would rest on their laurels, Michaela was hard at work saving big. So take that, hypothetical other employee who doesn't exist. Be your own Michaela. See if you could save in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage is not available in all states or for all vehicles and coverage selections.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
4:05 now at News Talk KVNU as we have sunny skies outside. It's like we could see a small chance of some snow tomorrow. I'll get to your weather forecast in just a minute. I'm Will Feelright with your local headlines as we begin KVNU's For the People show. Well, a new bill introduced to the Utah legislature is aiming to tackle the state's housing shortage by allowing homes to be built on smaller lots than typically permitted by local codes. House Bill 184, which is titled the Local Land Use Revisions, seeks to streamline the approval process for starter homes. Now, under the proposal, cities would have 30 days to respond to requests for building on smaller lots. Now, if a municipality fails to respond within that time frame, the request would be automatically accepted. Now, the state estimates indicate that Utah needs approximately 250,000 new starter homes by 2030 in order to keep pace with skyrocketing demand. Now, supporters are hoping that the measure will facilitate the rapid growth necessary to bridge that gap. Now, the bill, which has already garnered national attention, was introduced last week and is currently awaiting committee assignment. Well, 4 Utah children who disappeared with their mother back in November have been located in a state-run orphanage in Croatia, according to family members. Now, the children were last seen boarding a flight to Europe at Salt Lake City's International Airport back in late November with their mother, Alicia Seymour. Now, the Utah Department of Public Safety issued an endangered missing advisory for the children in December. Seymour was reportedly arrested earlier this month. She faces now 4 felony counts of custodial interference for allegedly forging her ex-husband's signature on passports to remove the children from the state. Now, the children's father, Kendall Seymour, arrived in Croatia earlier this month to seek custody, but says he's currently being limited to 2-hour daily visits. And Senator John Curtis called the transparent and independent investigation to be done in the fatal shooting of Alex Preddy by federal agents in Minneapolis, criticizing the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem for premature statements. Now, in a social media post yesterday, Curtis rebuked Noem's claim that Preddy intended to inflict maximum damage, noting that video evidence appears to contradict her version of events. Now, Curtis wrote, quote, "I disagree with Secretary Noem's premature DHS response, which came before all the facts were known and weakened confidence." Now, Representative Blake Moore also supported the investigation, saying he saw no evidence Preddy brandished a weapon in available footage. Meanwhile, Senator Mike Lee defended the agency online, posting, quote, "We're not defunding ICE, live with it." Now, President Donald Trump announced yesterday, though, he is deploying Border Czar Tom Homan to Minnesota amid growing calls for Noem's impeachment. Well, we've enjoyed some sunshine today as temperatures have been in the high 40s. Tonight, we're going to drop into the mid-20s. Clouds will start to come in overnight. We could see a few snowflakes possible tomorrow as temperatures will be around the low 40s, and then a mix of sun and clouds through the rest of the week as temperatures will stay right around the mid-40s. And then it looks like for the weekend still, we could see temperatures getting back into the low 50s. And weather this hour brought to you by Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. If you're a renter looking for peace of mind and affordable insurance coverage, call Matt Robbins with Quality First. He has the options available for you. 752-0101 or online at q1ins.com. I'll have another check of local news coming up at the bottom of the hour. KVNU News Time is now 4:08, and it's KVNU's For the People Show with Jason Williams coming up next here on KVNU.
I swear, every dad thinks the thermostat is a personal challenge. You turn it up, 5 minutes later, he turns it down. If you're warm, he's losing. You know what I'm talking about, right? But here's the thing. Dad might not be wrong. You might just need better insulation. Call Cardall's Insulation. Honestly, most homes are not adequately insulated. Cardall's uses high-performance insulation that stops cold drafts and keeps your home warm so you don't have to blast the furnace. Call Cardall's Insulation at 755-5012 and call a truce with Dad, 755-5012.
The local news source. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Here's what some of our patients have to say about how Red River has changed their lives.
I went the traditional medicine route, and it was not tailored to me. It was just a one-size-fits-all. It was, this is how you do the program, and it's probably not going to work. That's what everybody always told me along the way, and somebody told me about Red River. They brought me in, they did testing, and everything was catered to my body and what I was actually experiencing, which was incredible.
At Red River Health and Wellness, our whole goal is to identify the underlying mechanisms driving your condition. Once we identify those imbalances, then we'll put a treatment plan together that's specific to you, and then we improve those imbalances one by one, and then slowly teach you and educate you and show you what to do and what not to do so that you're the expert in your own health long term.
I'll never forget the day I woke up and I went about my day and I stopped and I said, I feel completely normal. It really, truly not only helped me save my thyroid, but it gave me my life back.
Call Red River Health and Wellness at 855-55-RIVER.
Call Red River today.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is, I almost said Monday. It's my Monday here on the show. It is Tuesday, January 27th. My first day back, actually, from the Sundance Film Festival. Coming up in a few minutes, I'll give you a bit of my recap. But it was chilly up there, to say the least. I think the daytime high, one of the weekend days, was 20 for the high. And the morning high, most of the people heading out to their first movie up there at 9 in the morning, was 7 degrees. That didn't stop the celebrities, though. This is one of the biggest years, I think, for celebrity sightings from people I talked to and my own experience. But it is very evident that this is the last one in Utah. And I actually had a chance to talk to a couple of business owners on Main Street who agreed to let me record their comments. What's going through their head as they, as one business owner put it, as we think about this being the last film festival in Utah, something that really put Park City on the map as a year-round destination alongside our skiing, and you think about next year there will be no film festival, and then you look at the mountains this year and there's no snow, she said there is concern. There's a lot of concern. So there was a serious side to a lot of the conversations I had with people up there. Some great films that you can watch for. Most of what plays at the Sundance Film Festival these days, there was a time when if you saw it at the film festival, it was 50-50 whether you'd ever hear about it again, even if it was great and had famous people in it. Sometimes those films would just disappear outside of the festival circuit if they weren't picked up and distributed by a company, a production company, or a distribution company. These days, that rarely happens. Nearly everything at the film festival eventually makes its way onto a streaming service. In fact, there are 3 films from last year's, the 2025 Sundance Film Festival, that are currently streaming on HBO Max, and there are 4 or 5 on Hulu and Netflix from years previous. So most of what screens at the festival does eventually turn up, and that's also has people talking about the future of the film festival circuit in general, including questions like, does it serve a purpose anymore? I think it does, mainly because of the behind-the-scenes stuff. But we'll talk about what locals and business owners in Park City had to tell me as I just chatted with a few people here and there when I'd run into them on the street. So that's coming up in a few minutes. We have a new episode of Sutherland Institute's Defending Ideas for you this week, and our listeners, of course, get a sneak preview every Tuesday. This is an update or a recap, if you will, from the Sutherland Institute on the legislative session so far, how they've been feeling about some of the bills that are making their way through the legislative process here in week 2 of the legislative 45-day session, and some things they're concerned about as well, some things that as a conservative think tank, they are not thrilled that Utah lawmakers are looking into. So that update coming up later on in the hour. It hasn't been a particularly controversial legislative session so far. Give it time. It will be. We've seen some moderation. There is a bill. I've complained about this many times here on the show before, but regardless of whether you like the idea or not behind a bill that is based on something that is actually a national political debate that is usually being, duked out between the two political parties, I loathe it when you see that as something coming up as legislation in your state. I don't care if you're in a blue state or a red state. I don't care if you agree or disagree with whatever it is. This is political scientists refer to this as the nationalization of state legislatures, and I think it's all headed in a very bad direction. Red state, blue states alike. Purple states do a little better, and there's a reason for that. But states where you have a supermajority of Republicans or a supermajority of Democrats, they more and more often these days seem to not be able to help themselves when it comes to jumping on these bandwagons that are, big political debates at the national level, but really have nothing to do with state law or policy. And yet they're taking up a lot of time in legislative sessions throughout the country on an increasing basis. And Utah is no exception on that. But what I have seen, and this has me encouraged, because we didn't see this in previous years, but this year we're seeing a little moderation. So one example of this, and just to give you an update on this bill, we talked about it last week here on the show, there is a bill that seeks to ban anyone who is not a citizen from voting in Utah. Who would be opposed, right? Well, the problem with this bill is that it's not solving a problem. It's seeking a problem that doesn't exist. The Lieutenant Governor's office actually testified before a committee when the bill was first heard late last week, saying this doesn't happen in Utah. In fact, going back years in the voter rolls and contrasting them with vote records, all they could find were 4 people who were not U.S. citizens who had registered to vote. And only one of those 4 tried to vote, and, of course, the system flagged it. Because we're already on top of this, basically. And they worry that this bill would actually create problems where none exist by someone showing up to vote after they'd been registered for years and finding out, well, the state couldn't verify you were a United States citizen, even though you've lived in Utah your entire life. So now you've got to go take your birth certificate and Social Security card into the clerk's office and verify you're a citizen. And because you have to do that, since it is election day, you won't be able to vote in this election. So Lieutenant Governor's office, without saying it directly, basically testified that this is not a problem in Utah. This bill doesn't solve an existing problem. Again, only 4 instances could be found over the last 7 years of an individual who was not a U.S. citizen, or at least that they couldn't verify was a U.S. citizen, registering to vote. And of those 4, only 1 tried to vote, and their ballot was immediately flagged because, well, the Lieutenant Governor's office and the elections system in Utah could not verify they were U.S. citizens. So again, we're already solved. This problem doesn't exist. We've already solved the problem. Utah runs elections very well, and this bill would create a requirement that a person proactively prove they are a citizen, which, again, the Lieutenant Governor's office said what they worry about is that you're not solving a problem that exists, but you're creating a new burden for voting that a lot of voters are not going to discover until they try to vote on election day and are told, oh, sorry, we can't. We know, I mean, obviously you're a U.S. citizen, but we can't verify that on paper because you registered to vote 20 years ago. And so you've got to now go through and provide updated documents. And again, because it's election day, you don't have time to do that, so you can't vote this go round. But we'll see you next cycle. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but you could be talking thousands of people throughout the state, and we do have a lot of legislative races, for example, that come down to a few hundred votes deciding the winner, primaries and general elections alike. So this has irritated me because, again, this is just jumping on a national political debate. It is not a problem here in Utah. It's a bill that seeks to tie Utah to one side of that national political debate. But not a problem here in Utah that is in need of solving because it's already solved. The moderation that we're seeing, though, is lawmakers. In previous years, they've seemed to be afraid to run away from these. If one lawmaker sponsors a bill like this, everyone else feels like, well, they don't want to be the only one to not fall in line, so it passes. Even though everybody is saying the whole time they think it's a bad idea or an unnecessary burden that they're throwing on voters or whatever might be the end outcome of the particular bill. This year, what we're seeing instead is kind of an acknowledgement of that and people saying to each other on Capitol Hill, let's rework this a little bit. Let's change what this bill says, because obviously you're not going to drop it, you the sponsor, and obviously we're not going to vote against it because then everyone's going to, that's just we're creating a convenient talking point for everybody to attack us. So we're all going to pass this bill out of fear that will get primaried. But let's make it something that doesn't cause problems. And so some moderation on that front. It's been encouraging to see. So that particular bill has been changed significantly. And as it currently stands, now it has not passed. And it still has, as I understand it, a battle in the Senate that might be the end of it. But the bill has been changed in the House as of this afternoon to a bill that simply says, if the election system here in Utah, the elections office, cannot verify 100% that a person is a U.S. citizen, they proactively reach out to them and say, hey, before the next election, help us verify that you're a U.S. citizen. And that usually only happens, the Lieutenant Governor's office said, when there has been some sort of loss of records at the county level or someone registered to vote 40 years ago and has never updated their information or changed anything. And so sometimes we don't have, on paper, we don't have proof they're a citizen, but we know that they were a citizen when they registered to vote the first time. Again, the bill solving a problem that's already been solved. But to satisfy the sponsor, we'll pass the bill, but instead the bill will just say that the Lieutenant Governor's office needs to proactively reach out to people who can't be verified as U.S. citizens throughout the rest of the remainder of the year, outside of the election day itself, which no harm in that. They do it already, but this bill will simply make it law, require it by law. So, again, some moderation, some reasonable thinking on Capitol Hill, kind of encouraging. And, again, so far, not as much controversy as the last two sessions. So as soon as I say that, of course, something controversial will happen, unfortunately. But it has been, so far, a pretty nuts and bolts, just down to business, less headline-chasing legislative session. And that's nice to see. There are a few bills, though, that are getting a lot of opposition and a lot of support, and we'll break those down for you coming up at the start of Hour 2, including one bill dealing with water that has very left-leaning water conservation groups and Save the Great Salt Lake groups with very right-leaning property rights and limited government organizations and individuals teaming up to speak against a bill that takes some power away from the state engineer. We'll talk about it again. A legislative recap from us, as well as Sutherland Institute's take on the legislative session. All of that coming up at the start of Hour 2. On the other side, some of the comments I got from folks, business owners, and residents of Park City alike on the last Sundance Film Festival happening and the lack of snow on the hills. A lot of concern for the future in Park City is what I heard while I was at the festival this last weekend. Some clips of some of the conversations right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
You work before dawn and long past dusk. At Black Cliffs Equipment, we see that. That's why we bring you Massey Ferguson tractors. Right now, get 0% financing for up to 96 months on select tractor models. Plus, great offers on hay equipment. And when the work gets tough, our service team is here to help with genuine AGCO parts. As a way of saying thanks for all you do, mention this ad when you come in for a free gift. Black Cliffs Equipment, your Massey Ferguson dealer in Hyde Park.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
For our military families, Americans can show appreciation through education.
Because of you, I will walk across the stage.
I can show my children that they can succeed at any point in their life.
I will be able to make a positive difference in the lives of other people.
I was able to achieve my dreams and work on eradicate some of the world's top diseases.
I was able to get the education that I always wanted.
Because of you, I will be paying it forward and serving my nation.
Join us at ThanksUSA.org.
The Above and Beyond Salute.
Hello? Yeah, good morning. Is Kelsey Alder there?
Sir?
I understand you're a nurse, is that right?
Yes, I'm a labor and delivery nurse.
Talk about high stress sometimes.
Yeah.
Could we offer you free lunch?
That would be great.
You and your family can enjoy free lunch on us for the impact that you have on our community and just making it such a great place to live. How's that?
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. That made my week. I really appreciate it.
The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs on News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Coming up again, we'll recap the first week and a day of the legislative session for you. Sutherland Institute in your sneak preview of this week's episode of their Defending Ideas videocast coming up as well with their own take on the legislative session. In fact, they have some stuff they're very excited about, some things they're not really impressed with. As a conservative think tank. So they'll recap the legislative session from their point of view as well. A bill on school materials getting some really loud pushback. And also water bills, obviously always controversial. No exception this year, but one specifically is getting a lot of attention and has both left-leaning groups and conservative-leaning groups teaming up to oppose a bill that would take some power away from the state engineer, a convergence of events you wouldn't predict or expect, with these groups working together being the most obvious part, but also the fact that they're actually arguing for expanded state authority in this instance. We'll break it down for you coming up in hour 2 of today's show. As I mentioned at the start of the show, last weekend I had a chance to spend some time in Park City at the Sundance Film Festival. Saw some great movies. We'll recap those on the movie show on Friday. But I had a chance to, well, first off, run into celebrities in awkward places, shuttle buses and doorways and things like that, which is always odd. What do you say to Molly Ringwald when she walks past you and you open the door for her and she says thanks? You just say thanks like she's anyone else. But you're still thinking in your head, that's Molly Ringwald. It's a lot of celebrities, more than I remember seeing in a single weekend at the film festival. And I asked some of the production staff about that. They said they're noticing it too. So for the celebrity crowd, at least, there's definitely an impetus to get to the last film festival in Park City before they move for 2027 to the Boulder area. But I had a chance to talk with residents and business owners about the move. The announcement came last year, of course, so this is no surprise to anyone. But I asked, folks as I walked around or ran into people and even stepped into one business and asked if I could speak with an owner or manager and get some comments. What they were thinking as they watch. There were some noticeable differences. The famous marquee on the Egyptian Theater, which in every Sundance Film Festival I've ever attended always said Sundance Film Festival 2020, whatever year it is. This year, in what I was told is an outright protest of the decision to leave Utah, the marquee of the famous Egyptian Theater, everyone who's come to Utah as a visitor for the film festival walks all the way up Main Street to have their picture taken under the Egyptian Theater and its famous marquee, so associated with the Sundance Film Festival. And this year, instead of saying Sundance Film Festival, it says February 7th, Blue Collar Comedy Tour, Bill Engvall. And I was told by some of the business owners along Main Street that this was a deliberate protest by the owners and managers of the Egyptian Theater to the decision to leave Utah. They said they wanted no part in the film festival this year if they weren't going to stay in Utah, and they have no part. There were no film screening at the famous Egyptian Theater. There are also no films screening at the Prospector Theater, a staple of the film festival, and no films at any theater, actually, in Park City other than the Eccles High School Auditorium, the Library Center Theater, and the Ray, which is actually one of the few theaters the Sundance Institute owns itself. It's an old sports authority next to the Fresh Market there in Park City. So only 3 theaters instead of 5 in Park City this year. In Salt Lake, the traditional 2 theaters, Broadway and the Rose Wagner, and a smaller number of films this year as well. Larger crowds. In fact, I've been going to the film festival off and on since the mid-'90s as an attendee. This is one of the most crowded I've ever seen. And as I already mentioned, more stories of and my own experience with celebrity run-ins than I've ever seen. So there is some definite excitement to be there for the last one. But I talked with a lot of residents who told me they were very sad to see it go. It was fun for them. I also talked to some residents who said they were happy to see it go. One man told me that this was one of the first years in many that he'd stayed in Park City for the film festival. He said, me and my family usually go on vacation for at least a week of these 10 days just to not be here because it's impossible to drive around. Logistics and public safety were part of the decision to leave Park City, but there were other factors as well. I talked to business owners, though, and there's worry. They feel anxious about the future. In fact, one business owner who asked that I use only her first name, an owner of an eatery on Main Street, the eatery on Main Street, Park City. It's been there for a long time, but it's under new ownership and management. But she asked that I not use her full name for personal privacy reasons. But Megan is owner and manager of the eatery, and I asked her, is there concern about the future of business in Park City with the film festival leaving? And we talked for quite some time, but just one of her comments stood out to me.
Of course, there's a worry. The Sundance Film Festival and our skiing really put Park City on the map as a destination year-round. I honestly wonder what happens to all of our businesses without the festival and, of course, the snow.
And she gestured to the nearby mountains that are normally just covered with not only snow but skiers. This year, more rocks and trees, rocks and grass that you can see than snow and skiers. And she told me, she said, it does make you worry. These are two things that put Park City in people's minds as a vacation destination, even in July, not just during the festival or the ski season. And she said, you do wonder. She told me that the local Chamber of Commerce is assuring business owners they're on top of this. They're working on this. They're trying to see what else they can bring in, either multiple additional events that they can bring in, or trying to entice one big event like the film festival itself has been. But Megan said it's hard to compete with something that brought 10,000 people a day to Park City for 10 days. And all of those people went home and remembered Park City as a potential destination for their family vacation that summer. And she said that she has no doubt it will impact businesses in Park City year-round, not just during the 10-day festival, with it leaving Utah next year. So concern up there in Park City. But this week and up to Sunday, it ends February 1st, definitely nothing but celebration can be seen on the streets, as more people than I've seen before at a film festival after a couple of decades of going here and there, and more celebrities just taking in the sights and riding the shuttle buses with everyone else. Yeah. And, of course, the whole thing is about film. Again, I saw some great movies. I've heard about some that I haven't seen yet, but plan to in my second trip up this coming weekend. And we'll talk about the actual films at the film festival and what's getting attention already on Friday's movie show. So stick around. More of KVNU's For the People after this look at the news with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Well, thank you, Jason. Utah's snow season is definitely off to a slow start, with snowpack totals right now falling well below average across the state, confirming early winter forecasts. Now, northern Utah mountains are seeing mixed results, with the Wasatch Range sitting anywhere between 60 to 70% of average. Now, the situation is more severe as you work your way south, where snowpack levels in central and southern Utah are between 45 to 55%. Now, experts with the Colorado Basin River Forecast Center are warning that without a dramatic shift, spring runoff is going to suffer. Now, inflows into Lake Powell and the Great Salt Lake are projected to reach only about half of their typical levels. Meanwhile, climatologists say that recovering to average levels would require double the normal precipitation over the next 2 months, a scenario that's right now being given only about a 10% chance of occurring. Now, current weather patterns are also favoring drier storms right now rather than the moisture-rich systems that are needed to erase the deficit. In other news, a Senate committee advancing a bill yesterday that would ban kratom in Utah by classifying it as a Schedule I drug. Now, Senate Bill 45, which was sponsored by Senator Mike McKell, passed on a 7-1 vote and is now heading to the full Senate for debate. Now, McKell cited concerns regarding addiction and accessibility, noting that the substance is easily purchased at many gas stations. Now, the state medical examiner reported 158 fatal overdoses involving kratom over the last 5 years, though most cases involved other substances. Now, opponents, including the American Kratom Association, argue that kratom is essential for pain management and that pure forms are not fatal. Now, Utah previously legalized and regulated the substance under the 2019 Kratom Consumer Protection Act. Now, while the bill moved forward, lawmakers indicated that interest in exploring stricter regulations rather than a total ban were being sought out. And former Utah Governor Gary Herbert expressed concern regarding the potential partial government shutdown as the U.S. Senate is preparing now to vote on the Department of Homeland Security budget. Now, Herbert criticized what he said were the reoccurring threats of shutdowns as a lack of leadership in Washington, and he noted that closing government operations has become almost a norm rather than the exception for settling political disputes. Now, the former governor also called for improvements in immigration enforcement, specifically questioning whether ICE agents are adequately trained to handle protests. Now, he cited concerns about lack of due process and potential overreactions by federal agents inside the country. Well, we've had a nice afternoon today, enjoying lots of sunshine as temperatures have been in the high 40s. Now tonight, some clouds coming in. Temperatures are going to drop into the mid to low 20s. Those clouds could bring a small chance of some snow possible for tomorrow, as we'll see temperatures Wednesday right around the low 40s, and then a mix of sun and clouds the rest of the week. as temperatures will stay right around the mid-40s by Friday. 50s possibly coming for the weekend. And weather this hour brought to you by Mountain Valley Heating. You know, indoor air in our area can be 5 times dirtier than outdoor air, especially during dry winter months. That's why Mountain Valley Heating and Air can install a high-efficiency steam humidifier. It uses less water and helps improve the air quality in your home. Call Mountain Valley Heating for a free in-home air quality assessment at 435-5170, 435-753-5170 for Mountain Valley Heating and Air. And I'm Will Feelwright with your KVNU local headlines.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In Minneapolis, hundreds turning out to protest immigration operations in the city despite bitterly sub-zero temperatures. It comes after a 5-year-old was detained with his father and sent to a facility in Texas. ABC's Matt Rivers says the largest protest was at the Minneapolis airport.
This was peaceful. You had a couple dozen people block one of the lanes that led to the departures area, the drop-off area for passengers. And the message was clear. They want ICE out of their city. They want local police and local officials to do more to try and get that to happen. And by doing this in a public place, they think they're spreading awareness about their message.
Millions of Americans on alert with winter storm warnings stretching from Texas to New England. Heavy snow and ice, followed by an Arctic blast, could leave states covered in ice and dealing with power outages into next week. President Trump today and along earlier, Vice President J.D. Vance were keynote speakers at the annual March for Life rally in Washington, D.C. This is ABC News.
We start each new year filled with hope and prosperity for things to come. At Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology, it's no different. Dr. Daines is so grateful to get to call Cache Valley home and continue to offer his services to the wonderful people that live in our beautiful valley. He wants to help you start your new year off right by improving your hearing, which over the course of time will help improve your quality of life. Give them a call at 435-753-4327 or 753-HERE to schedule an appointment, or you can visit them online at CacheValleyHearing.com.
Bringing Wall Street to Main Street. From your local experts in downtown Logan, this is the Adams Wealth Advisors Market Report.
Hi, this is Brooke with Adams Wealth Advisors. Stocks closed another day higher as the dollar continued to plunge, a move that has helped boost dollar-denominated asset prices. The President of the United States stated that he was not concerned about the decline of the U.S. dollar, which immediately sent the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index to a session low and resulted in a 1.05% loss on the day. Growth stocks with a significant pricing power saw their share prices soar. The Dow Jones Industrial Average retreated 409 points to 49,003, while the NASDAQ and S&P 500, both of which have a larger portion of growth stocks, advanced 0.88% to 25,940 and 0.41% to 6,979 respectively. Technology and utilities led the rally, each posting gains of more than 1%. The bond market weakened as global investors trimmed their dollar-related exposure, with the impact particularly evident at the longer end of the yield curve. Although the 5-year U.S. Treasury yield held steady, the 10-year and 30-year yields rose by 2 and 4 basis points respectively. It was yet another strong day for gold investors. The precious metal, which has long been used as a store of value during times of uncertainty and distrust in government institutions, advanced another 1.77% to above the 5,200 mark. Meanwhile, the Consumer Confidence Index fell to its lowest level in the past decade as concerns about a sluggish job market continued to mount. Looking ahead, an interest rate decision is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. While the short-term policy rate is widely expected to remain unchanged, the Federal Reserve's forward guidance will be closely watched.
That's your update from Adams Wealth Advisors, guiding your financial future one day at a time. For personalized help planning yours, reach out to us at 435-752-1702. See you soon, Cache Valley. Advisory services offered through Adams Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. For important disclosures and more information, visit adamswealthadvisors.com.
Aggie basketball is heard here.
You know, there's a pride in this.
KVNU is your station for the best game day coverage, with pregame beginning 1 hour before tip-off, play-by-play and post-game interviews, and Aggie call afterwards. It's Aggie basketball on News Talk KVNU 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at kvnutalk.com, and the KVNU mobile app, the heritage home for the Aggies.
Utah's federal delegation joining nationwide calls in a demand for a independent investigation, meaning outside the Department of Justice investigation into the weekend shooting in Minneapolis of a nurse and Veterans Administration member, a veteran himself, Alex Preddy. And this was on the evening of January 24th, the same day of the shooting in Minnesota. Democrats were threatening to withhold needed votes for a six-bill spending package that has a deadline of this Friday, by the way. That's still being debated at the federal level. But as public opinion has turned sour on ICE over this one, people have asked me why do you think it was this one that has even people here in Utah, even lawmakers at the state level, saying they saw the video of the shooting and something needs to be done, something needs to change. Even a couple of Republican lawmakers saying that today in their press briefing. Why this one and not the shooting of Renee Good in Minnesota a couple of weeks ago? I don't know. Maybe this one at least raises very more clear-cut questions about the behavior of the particular ICE agents involved in this situation. The shooting of this Peretti man. I'm not going to recommend anyone go see the video. It's out there if you want to see it. It's hard to watch, and it's. I agree with Congressman Blake Moore. The questions about whether this was appropriate behavior on the part of the federal agents those are legit questions. It's a concerning thing to see. So the statements are out. Senator John Curtis took a lot of heat over the weekend for an original statement that was, I'll be honest with you, sitting on the fence. And he put one out this morning that was that named names. He called out Secretary Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security, who had called Peretti after the news of the shooting broke later that night. Kristi Noem and White House advisor Stephen Miller were both on TV by the end of the night of the shooting, calling this man a domestic terrorist. But as more information has come out, this was a beloved member of the community, worked closely with veterans in the VA, was a nurse for years I believe in an emergency room. He did carry a weapon with a license. He was licensed and trained to do so, and he did have a weapon on him that day. The video does show the ICE agents removing the weapon before they shoot him, which is what raises some significant questions about this. Even the president today saying, he felt for the Peretti family, and that someone, the president said, definitely needs to look into this one. So this one kind of crossed the Rubicon. Public opinion has followed suit. The polls are showing that just in the last 3 or 4 days of polling, what was basically roughly a 50-50 split in Americans on the ICE efforts that this administration has been pushing, that flipped pretty quickly. And I think in a poll that was done by the New York Times showed that it shifted to about 58% opposed, saying ICE needs to get out of these cities. So whether that happens or not is a whole debate that is going to happen in another one. But for their part, here's what Utah lawmakers had to say, or Utah's federal lawmakers had to say. In a statement this morning, Senator John Curtis said, quote, "I disagree with Secretary Noem's premature Department of Homeland Security response," again referring to her calling Peretti a domestic terrorist on, I'm not sure which cable news network it was, the night of the shooting. He said that Noem's response came, quote, "before all the facts were known and weakens the confidence of Americans in their institutions." He says, I know firsthand how tragic these situations are and how far the impact reaches. Remember, Curtis has more than a decade of experience training law enforcement officers before he was first elected mayor of Provo. So he said, I know firsthand how tragic these situations are and how far the impact reaches throughout the community. Until the facts are fully known, we should be leading with empathy, restraint, and respect for the rule of law. Again, Curtis pointing those comments specifically at Kristi Noem, Secretary Kristi Noem, for calling Preddy a domestic terrorist the night of the shooting in a cable news interview. Again, facts have come out on who Preddy was. 37-year-old nurse shot and killed by ICE during an altercation in Minneapolis on the 24th. And the video is there aren't many ways you can interpret the video. Congressman Blake Moore also spoke in a statement released over the weekend, said after seeing the videos, he's referencing the video, he says, after seeing several angles and with my relatively novice eye and understanding of the use of force guidelines, this clearly requires an in-depth investigation. I fully support that, and I'm encouraged that that was an apparent outcome from a phone call between President Trump and Governor Walz today. That statement out Sunday. So that was on Sunday. The White House reported that Trump had reached out to Minnesota Governor Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. And Trump said in a post online yesterday, said, I'm sending Tom Homan to Minnesota tonight. He's not been involved in that area yet, but he knows and likes many of the people there. So questions immediately swirled after John Curtis's statement this morning, being the first Republican to actually call one of Trump's cabinet members out by name. Again, Senator John Curtis said, I disagree with Kristi Noem's premature DHS response, which came before all the facts were known. Again, she called him Preddy a domestic terrorist in an interview on cable news the night of the shooting. Soon questions started to circulate. Does this mean, with John Curtis, is he the canary? Are Senate Republicans ready to call for Noem's resignation? No word on that. No official statement from Senate leadership or the Republican majority. But having heard the rumors, I would assume that people were asking, is Noem gone at this point? Is she done? President Trump, in a second post this afternoon, said that Noem isn't going anywhere. He likes the job she's doing. So that's where we're at on this one. But again, national reporters a bit surprised, I think, to see Senator Curtis's statement this morning calling Noem out by name and saying she spoke without empathy before all the facts were known, and condemning her for that, for calling Preddy a domestic terrorist in an interview the night of the shooting. So we'll see where this goes. And again, Congressman Moore joining him. Senator Mike Lee has not put out a full statement on this, but he did tweet the other day, we're not defunding ICE, live with it. And absolutely no word on this, or to be honest with you, any issue recently from Congressman Burgess Owens. I'm not sure what's up there, but he's been pretty quiet lately. We'll let you know if we hear more. Full story on this at CashValleyDaily.com. Charlie Shill's got all of the quotes and full links to full statements that I've read just some snippets of here, if you'd like to see them, from Congressman Moore and Senator John Curtis. Linked in the story at CashValleyDaily.com. And we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Is your health and wellness journey just beginning? The Sports Academy is more than just a gym. It's a community that offers something for all ages and fitness levels. Are you ready to feel empowered, energized, and unstoppable? See for yourself why the Sports Academy is more than a gym. Check out our community today with the largest weight rooms, certified coaches, trainers, and instructors that will keep you motivated. Welcome to the Sports Academy community. Your club, your results, your life.
Everyone has an estate, but do you have an estate plan? This is Jace Allen, Northern Utah's estate planning attorney. At Allen Law Office, wills and trusts are what we do. If you've been putting it off, now is the time to get it done. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones, Protect your legacy, protect your assets. Start today at cashlegal.com or just search Allen Law Office. Wills and trusts are what we do. Allen Law Office.
I'm Ed Horrell, author of The Kindness Revolution. I've got a little suggestion for you this week. Take a moment to visit a classroom somewhere. If it takes going to an open house at a school, a PTA meeting, or simply making an appointment to meet with your child's teacher, do it. And while you're there, make it a point to say thank you to as many of the faculty and staff that are supporting the futures of these kids. To learn more, check us out at thekindnessrevolution.net.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. President Trump appears to be shifting his approach to Minnesota. Here are the factors that push the White House into a new strategy. Also, competition from AI is causing significant pain for shares of software companies. We'll examine why former Wall Street darlings are hurting. And navigating all the tax changes for this year. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Things that make you go,
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Coming up in hour 2, we'll get to it. The legislative session so far. From two different angles. Sutherland Institute this week in their new episode of Defending Ideas, their weekly video cast. Our listeners get a sneak preview every Tuesday afternoon here on the show. And this week they're discussing some of the things they like happening in the legislative session. A handful of bills that Sutherland, a conservative think tank based in Salt Lake City, says that lawmakers are getting right and that they support. Some that they support, but they also have some recommendations for how they could be made better. And we'll break it all down for you. Also, a handful of bills dealing with water, but one in particular that has both left-leaning conservation groups and right-leaning property and individual rights protection groups teaming up in opposition to a bill that would have limited the power of the state engineer when it came to water rights decisions. This is unexpected all around, not just the groups that are teaming up together to oppose this bill, normally groups that are at each other's throats, but also, in a nutshell, both organizations are arguing for more powerful government. We'll talk about how this came about, what this bill aims to do, and why opponents say it will actually have the opposite effect. In fact, it will make things worse, and people will lose their water rights. We'll talk about that coming up in hour 2 of today's show. So a couple of other stories I want to point you to. If you're looking for something to do this weekend, weather actually not bad for being outside. Still a little chilly for being in a lake, if you ask me. But that is not going to stop anyone coming up this weekend, Friday and Saturday, the 30th and 31st, the Bear Lake Monster Winterfest. And Mark Smoot, the chairman of the Garden City Chamber of Commerce, spoke with Rod Baum at CashValleyDaily.com and said that they expect this one to be bigger than ever. He said there is no ice on the lake. The water, though, is just above 32 degrees. Said it should be right for the events, which include, of course, the Bear Lake Monster Plunge. That's the reason everybody goes. But also, and if you've never seen this, it is hilarious, the Cardboard Regatta. It is exactly what it sounds like. Cardboard boats, and the one that stays afloat the longest wins. So they're inviting everyone. This is a whole family type of event, and they said it's a weekend for fun in the snow and icy waters. You don't have to get in the water, by the way. And there are events that take place from Logan Canyon to the nearby Sunrise Resort and Event Center, and, of course, the Utah Bear Lake State Park Marina, where the Bear Lake Monster Polar Plunge happens and the Cardboard Regatta launches. So check it out. Rod reports that Beaver Creek Lodge will be the place for some of the winter sports activities that go along with this, and that at the Bear Lake Overlook Rest Stop, they're going to be passing out free hot cocoa and treats as people come into the Garden City area to welcome them in. So, and the Monster Winterfest Social gets underway around 5 p.m. On Saturday night, the second night and final night of the event. So Our friends at the Family Place, by the way, have a presence at this. They're actually hosting and planning some of the family-oriented activities for kids and things like that at the various locations for this. And then, of course, the Taste of Bear Lake dinner is happening. That's 5 to 8 p.m. Both nights, I believe, and it's cheap, $3 a plate, and you get to taste some of what the local restaurants there have outside of the regular summer season. So pretty cool stuff. The bulk of activities take place on Saturday, but there are quite a few on Friday as well. And if you feel like doing some running or walking in the cold for a good cause as well, you can support their effort through the Monster Run Walk, which kicks off Saturday morning at 10 a.m., and they're actually giving out awards for that. And then finally, probably the most famous event for the food-oriented, the Monster Chili Cook-Off. That is also happening Saturday at the Utah State Park Marina. And cooks start around 9 a.m., and the public is invited to sample the chili when it's ready around 11 a.m., and that goes until 2:30 in the afternoon. There is a formal judging in place. I'm not sure how you become a judge, but you can vote in the People's Choice Award as well. And they'll have food trucks and more. And then around noon, the Monster Cardboard Regatta competition gets underway. And, it's a pretty fun event. So, and the weather's great for it. A drive through Logan Canyon to Garden City wasn't the case last year. This year shouldn't be too bad. So the Bear Lake Monster Winterfest kicking off this Friday and it goes until Saturday. Late in the evening. So more information and some great photos from last year's event that Rod has included with his story at CashValleyDaily.com. And stick around, hour 2 of today's show with legislative recap, both the water bills and a bill that Sutherland Institute says is doing a really good job of trying to protect religious freedom in Utah. Their recap in their sneak preview this week for our listeners of Defending ID.